more about the threat of some thunderstorms in the west on Storm Watch in just a minute, but first we take a look at Tropical Depression 6, which has been pestering, to say the least, the Texas Gulf Coast and even on toward Louisiana for the last several hours. It was named a tropical depression yesterday. Right in the crosshairs, it's centered at 25.6 degrees north, 94.7 west, and that is 170 miles east of Brownsville, Texas. That's the center of lowest pressure, which is 29.47 inches or 998 millibars, but the effects of this tropical depression are far-reaching. Nearly stationary, but it's believed that a drift toward the west by northwest should begin at some point and eventually making landfall somewhere in the upper Mexican or lower Texas Gulf Coast, if that goes in that direction. Whenever they go nearly stationary, you just have to stand back and look for signs of movement. Now, we already have tropical storm warnings, as we had late yesterday, issued from High Island, Texas, Galveston Bay, Matagorda Bay, Baffin Bay, and all the way down around Padre Island and Brownsville, Texas. That means tropical storm conditions, including some of the high water that goes with that, and waves and winds that occasionally will get over 39 miles an hour, and they have. But tropical storm usually indicates sustained winds that high. Okay, we also had a flash flood warning frame, and that was in Louisiana, but also the tropical storm warnings imply flash flood warnings as well. Well, we have low pressure that's spinning out there, and this is where the center is indicated to be. But you can see there are some swirls in the clouds in other areas. That might not be the only swirl. Sometimes we call them multiple centers, multiple locations of circulation coming around this wide area that is the still somewhat disorganized center of our tropical depression. But you can see that the whole mass of rain and clouds seems to be advancing toward the Texas Gulf Coast. We'll have to keep an eye on the lowest pressure, but the weather has been pounding the coast, as you saw in our video from Corpus Christi, just about up to the roadways that are coming off the barrier islands. This is where the worst weather appears to be right now in terms of heavy rain, squalls, winds probably gusting up to 60 miles an hour at times. We have had reports from offshore drilling platforms of gusts to 60 at a couple of places south of Louisiana. So we've got a storm out there that is in some cases as intense as Earl was. But at this point, the center of it does not have the weather connected with it. Corpus Christi and Padre Island coming in with heavy rain. We've had 2-3 inches of rain around Brownsville after a very dry year, by the way, and Doppler indications of 4 to 5 and even more inches on the Texas Gulf Coast, and a little more than that in Mexico in the last, in the last several days. The Doppler estimates go up to a foot on the Mexican coast of rain in just the last 4 days. So it's been raining there for quite a time. New Orleans, you are watching and waiting. It's not doing much where you are, but now coming on shore, some intense rain squalls, and these could be connected with some of the gusts up to 60 miles an hour that we saw at the offshore drilling rigs. Some of these heavy showers and thunderstorms coming onshore, Lafayette, Houma, New Orleans to the mouth of the Mississippi. Special marine warnings and are advised in that area, to be sure. So we're going to keep an eye on this and any further organization. If it becomes Tropical Storm Francis, you'll hear about it first here on the Weather Channel. Otherwise, disorganized upper-level systems, weak tropical waves coming across the Caribbean Sea, no big threats here. On into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, no big threat here either, but as you go a little bit further on toward the east, you see the beginning sentinel, the leading edge of some clouds and showers connected with a tropical wave there. And as we kind of zoom on into that area, you can see a little bit better that there's a mass of clouds, leading edge, a tropical wave that was really pounding the continental area of Africa for 2 days. Now it's come out over the water, not looking too intense, but a low pressure center possibly will have to be followed across the Atlantic for any possible tropical development. Javier is very weak south of the Baja, south of Cabo San Lucas right now, nearly stationary, 40 miles an hour, and doesn't have a whole lot of support. Not a big threat. We'll keep an eye on it just in case it regenerates. Meanwhile, back in the States, a front generating some locally heavy showers and thunderstorms in the northwest, and still some pesky rain showers and a very cool air mass that's moved into the northeast U.S. No thunder of significance there, but watch out for heavy rain squalls and maybe some localized flash flooding again in the west as you get inundated in parts of Texas and Louisiana, and some scattered thunderstorms in Florida. More on Weather Center to come.
Some areas along the Gulf Coast already feel the effects of Tropical Depression number 6. An update on its development and potential path next on Weather Center.
seasonal allergies.
Hey, lady, we're back. Surprise!
Now your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Well, we've had some very chilly weather, and we may see more chilly weather before the day is over with tomorrow. But first of all, we want to give you a little information on the tropics in our Storm Watch, and here is our tropical update. Right off the bat, want to give you the latest information on, this says Tropical Depression 6, but you know what? We have an update on that, and it is now a tropical storm. Tropical Storm Francis, as a matter of fact. If we can go to the other source, we'll show that to you. It is now 169 miles east of Brownsville, Texas. Winds are at 45 miles per hour. It is stationary, and the pressure is at 998 millibars. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, if you will look, you can see that we have tropical storm warnings still in effect. Back to the other source now, and that is from High Island, Texas to Brownsville, Texas. Now, looking at the satellite vantage point, we can show you that it has been a very tough system to get organized. It's very ill-organized. It's very tough to find where the center of circulation is. The reconnaissance aircraft have been in and out of this thing throughout the day, and they are saying that, you know what? Flight level winds are such that this should be upgraded to a tropical storm. So that's why we have Tropical Storm Francis now. As you can see, a lot of the convection throughout the day has been to the north and east of the center of circulation, which is right in here somewhere. But now we are starting to get a little bit of a wraparound effect around that center of circulation, which we would need to see if we were looking for intensification. Okay? So that is apparently going on. It is over the open waters, the very warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, and the upper level dynamics are such that, yeah, it is conducive for further development. Big area of high pressure aloft. You can even see the outflow here with those bands of clouds moving on out in that direction. So that's what we're looking at. Let's check out some radars, because certainly folks are feeling the effects of this system. We're talking about heavier downpours right along the coast from Corpus Christi down towards Brownsville. We've had squalls move throughout the day. We've had some overwashing on the JFK Causeway, and just in general a nasty, yucky day. And that's with the tropical storm still offshore, right? And we've also got the potential for some coastal flooding right along the coast into Louisiana too. Well, looking elsewhere, we can tell you that this is the big game in town, just about the only story, because the Caribbean looks very, very quiet. We did have a couple of tropical waves moving through the eastern Caribbean, but here in the western Caribbean all is quiet, and there's a reason for that. We have a trough in place here that's going to really inhibit any tropical development to take place. We head a little farther out in the eastern Atlantic. We'll tell you about the Leeward Islands looking good. The intertropical convergence zone right in here, Nothing to get too concerned with. We don't see anything conducive for development here. We do have a couple of tropical waves moving off of the coast of Africa, though, that may in fact bear watching. This one, of note, not a whole lot of convection with it, though. All right, Tropical Storm Javier, there you have it. Winds at 40 miles per hour, nearly stationary. It is expected to continue to weaken in intensity. All right, let's check out what's happening across the country. We have high pressure building in behind our frontal boundary, and this area of high pressure is going to give us that really cool weather overnight tonight. And that's going to be possibly cool enough to support some record lows. We'll have to wait and see. Weather Center is coming up next.
Some areas along the Gulf Coast already feel the effects of Tropical Storm Francis. An update on its development and where it may be headed next on Weather Center.
Mud holes, dirt roads. Most people wouldn't think of driving through stuff like that. But then that's the beauty of Subaru all-wheel drive. It automatically transfers power from the wheels that slip.
$19.95. If you call now, we'll include a $5 gift certificate for future purchases. Call 1-800-257-5700 now.
Every night we find a little more out about how the weather works and how it's going to turn out tomorrow. And that's what we bring to the viewers. It's the mystery of weather.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
And thunderstorms continue to get a bit frisky as we work our way into parts of Arizona. More on that in a moment. But we'll start things out first with Storm Watch, talking about our tropical update. And a reminder that this Storm Watch is sponsored by Home Depot. Let's start out with our tropical storm, and I'm talking about Francis there in the western Gulf of Mexico. A lot of you may be plotting at home, and certainly if you're watching from the Texas coast, you're watching with particular interest, wondering what Francis is going to do. Our tropical storm is centered at 25.5 north and 95.0 west, 155 miles east of Brownsville, Texas. Sustained winds of 40 miles per hour. Central pressure at 995 millibars. The thing that's rather disconcerting is the fact that it's nearly stationary and has been for around the past 24 hours or so. So until you can really get an idea of what the path is going to be, you have to see some sort of movement. So we're going to sit and watch this, and there are some indications as some of the pressures seem to be dropping just a bit, the central pressure, some indication that maybe as this continues to churn over open warm water, this might have a chance to maybe strengthen a bit. We'll keep an eye out for that. Tropical storm warnings exist here from High Island, Texas, all the way back down to Tampico, Mexico. And looking at it from a satellite perspective, it's important to note that although it's been very tough to actually find the center of circulation with this, that is less important. The important thing is to note that we are already finding very gusty winds and very heavy rain into eastern portions and southeastern portions of Texas. Now, when you have this tropical moisture, you don't have to have these high cloud tops with the big thunderstorms and a lot of